joined by Steve Evans, by Adam Smith, and the FAI's worst nightmare, Siobhan Biggane, all with me for this one, as we are going to get stuck into the aftermath of the Napoli game and look ahead to what is a massive game against Tottenham Hotspur on the horizon on Sunday. Also coming up, we've got Dom King, Green's lad, on Jordan Henderson's book, which he's worked on with Jordan, and Sean Davies on our upcoming show at the Unity as part of Homotopia. We've got people, I think it is John Gibbons, who is speaking to both of them, but you'll find out in the fullness of time. Everything is to come, but we are going to start off with the game against Napoli. And got a question for you, Sean, really. Firstly, is the manager was very...
What's everyone calling me Siobhan? My name's Siobhan.
Siobhan, sorry, Siobhan. I just mentioned Siobhan. Good on you, Siobhan. No, excellent stuff. If this was a recorded show, Siobhan, if this was a recorded show, I just started again from scratch. But we've,
Why now?
I've made this tour live bed and I've got a lie in it. In his press conference, the manager was adamant that this was not a dead rubber. I mean, there's a number of questions this throws up. Number one is, how do you refer to an alive rubber? Is it an alive rubber or just a rubber? And secondly, how, in the year of our Lord, Jesus Christ 2022, are we still referring, and I include anglicised Germans in this, to a phrase from frigging bridge? This much is something I could do with knowing. But the point was, he was right. It very much was a proper game of football between these two sides.
On the terminology, I'm all for just not using the term rubber in this context because it's a bit evocative for my liking and I'm not into it. I've read that it's got origins in bowls as well. And
really?
Yeah, something to do with when Sutton reaches 100. It's
played Crown Green.
Doesn't matter now. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Let's just if we have to refer to it. But it's quite clear we don't, because it wasn't. I know it was, but it didn't feel like it did. It felt really like fizzy from the beginning. It was like there was an anticipation to it, even though that there didn't need to be. From the off, I think that it was played at a pace that suggests it definitely didn't feel like a dead rubber. And I think that both teams probably had a bit of a point to prove. Napoli have all of a sudden, not out of nowhere, but certainly out of nowhere for some people, got this reputation as someone who can really fuck shit up this season and do something serious. And obviously we were on the end of that where we were like, yeah, probably Liverpool.
Fair play.
Essentially, yeah.
You fucked our shit up there. Fair play, team. Well done.
Liverpool's obviously the league form mean that they need some sort of positivity to get us through the weeks, because Saturday's a fairly miserable life to be living right now. And I think that they definitely had a bit of freedom to express themselves and with no risk. And I think that as well as the teams having their narratives going on, I think there were some individual narratives. I think that on reflection, Curtis Jones playing was a really, really good idea, because he come in for a bit of stick that was perhaps due, perhaps not. Obviously, Salah and Darwin probably wanted to be able to play with a bit of freedom. Fabinho, but having a decent game will have made an impact. So I think for many reasons beyond the results, which didn't matter, it was an absolutely proper game of football, and it was a joy to watch.
Yeah, it strikes me as really interesting, Steve, to be honest, because you don't get many of them, many games where it's a little bit like the comparison I always use is sort of test match cricket, where it's basically about seeing how good we are. How good are we? How good are you? This is we each know we're at a certain level of good, but how good are we? And you give two proud teams the prospect of a proper game, and they just grab it. It was the sort of thing that I don't think it would have gone the way in which it went in the era of behind closed doors football, where I think it would then maybe have just been played out a little bit more. But it was a little bit of sort of 60,000 in there as well. We're coming to your gaff, etc., etc. And it just strikes me as really interesting, because the way we see football in 2022 is everyone's dead clever and everyone's full of long-term prep, but these two managers picked really strong teams, and those really strong teams just went for it.
Definitely, yeah. And both sides have got a little bit of history between them as well. We've had quite a lot of encounters over the past 5-6 years, really, in the Champions League. And I think the defeat over there earlier in the year will probably still be fresh in the memory for a few. I want to prove a few wrong, really, because it was up there comfortably with probably our worst performance of the season. So there'll be a few on that team when they see come out that they'll say, right, I want to right a few wrong. So I was really pleased at Jurgen because I thought I definitely needed a bit of momentum going into the weekend, and he wanted to get a result. And as I say, you go out there and get a couple of early goals, you never know what's going to happen with regards to top in the group. So it definitely wasn't a dead rubber, definitely wasn't a friendly. There was Napoli a very good side. I had to listen to the Premium Ryan, obviously, and you had the Napoli supporters on there saying, they said no Italian sides ever won all six 6 group league games since AC Milan, I think, back in God knows when. So they'll want to come and get that as well. So Liverpool would have been hell bent on trying to stop them. So it was a cracking game of football. I thought 2 really good sides, really enjoyable.
Really enjoyable, Adam. Obviously, it helps when you win. That is an endless part of this. It's always easy to say, "Hey, wasn't that a deeply pleasurable experience?" Because you got to win the match. But I think winning the match and keeping a clean sheet, there's a realm where Liverpool could have won that game 3-2, 4-2. I don't think everyone would feel quite the same about it. Not only did Liverpool keep a clean sheet, but it wasn't through goalkeeping heroics or anything like that. They just limited the quality of opportunities Napoli could have across the 90 minutes. And it was clear that Napoli are a good side. We got to see that with the evidence of our own eyes as the game wore on. But they still were kept out of Liverpool's final third.
Yeah, I've been a bit confused by all of it, to be honest with you, Neil. Like, you know when you have a fight with your partner and you're just pissed off with them, and it doesn't matter what they do, you're just still really pissed off with them. That's what I've been like with Liverpool. They've just pissed me off lately, and there's nothing they can do that's making me any happier. But when you're talking about sort of, Napoli, a brilliant, and Siobhan said before, or Sean, I should say, said before about them being the form team in Europe and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's absolutely true. But I think that they're obviously doing well in Italy and stuff. But the big reason they've sort of got that reputation is because of how much they absolutely spanked us all over the place of theirs. But we're shite this season. So I'm a bit like, I don't understand. Like, they battered us, but we've been rubbish. But we also beat City, and we beat Bournemouth 9-0, and we battered Rangers. So we've been a really good team this season, but also we've been not very good at all when the kind of when we've needed to be almost in the games where we should win. So I didn't know how I felt at the end of the game. Do you know when you're like, I'm glad we've won. I'm glad it was 2-0. It's done all of the things that I wanted it to do. I still hate these bell ends, and I reckon I'm still going to. So yeah, I think just a bit of one of them where I just didn't have any real clue what was going on with it, and I'm just annoyed with everyone still.
I think that's perfectly understandable, because the big thing about this is, I think it's the Arsenal game. Is for me was a really good example of this idea of, well, when are you going to trust them again? When are you going to trust them to put a back-to-back? So now you're at the point after the Leeds and Forest game, you're a bit like, well, when can I trust you to put a back-to-back together? Because there's, you beat City, you beat West Ham, and then Forest happens. Okay, you then go and beat Ajax. And then from there, you find yourself basically, getting the great result against Ajax. We're all delighted about it. And then from there, then, you let us down again with the game against Leeds. And this is the difficulty around this, it is that idea that trust sort of erodes in them, and then the trust erodes in each other. And what I think you actually got to see against Napoli was, I thought trust increased with each other on the pitch before your very eyes. And that was one of the reasons why I was really quite buoyed by it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that idea of kind of, we're all together and we're all fighting for the same thing. Because I'll be honest, that was my big fear. Because when we went into the Leeds match, a lot of Leeds supporters were done with Jesse Marsch. They were like, get rid of him, want him off, gone. And in the game, I was thinking, but you can see their players are still fighting for him. The fans might be done with him, but the players aren't. The players are still fighting for him. And there was a little bit of me going, are ours still fighting for the manager? I don't know. I'm really a bit unsure about it all. And so the Napoli game in that way kind of renewed my faith in the idea that actually, yes, they are all still fighting for him, and they're all still fighting for each other. And as you say, they're finding their way. And that, I think, in previous seasons where this Liverpool team has been at its best, is they found their way. They've worked together to kind of figure out how we break down this team, or how we've got each other's backs. And there's been quite a lot this season of not having each other's backs. Trent almost being left to hang out to dry at right back with no one really chasing back. And then it was really notable when Elliott came in and properly chased back and helped him out. And everyone was going, oh, good. I didn't think Elliott could do that defensive stuff, but he's doing it really well. In fact, it was when Milner was there, wasn't he? He was doing all that for Milner. But that's when we've been at our best. And in the Napoli game, I thought we began to see that come back a little bit. So I did feel a lot happier over that.
The manager says, Steve, he talks about it today about sort of playing your way in. In the press conference, for me, it's a really interesting quote, which is that the only way to get out of this is to get through it. And that is, I think that is a part of his mentality, is that you've got to, we've got to, I've got to, they've got to, we're all in this together. There's got to be a knuckling down process, but there is not a magic button. And everything is the tiniest steps. There's no sudden magic button from a Liverpool point of view. And that to me is the thing that he's now very, very clear on, I think, in every single way. Like, a system change isn't just going to change it. Going back to the old system's not just going to change it. Everything is about these little steps. And I think that we may well see another rocky first 10, to be honest with you, on Sunday, because I think he feels as though that belief has just got to be earned over and over and over again. And hopefully it perpetuates something.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's as frustrating as it is to watch us at times. That brings in a bit of faith and trust in each other now. Trust in the process and the manager and what he wants to do, and really just sticking to what they believe in, trying to find that muscle memory of what they've been through in the past, and just eventually it will get better and things will improve. So it's not a nice process to go through, because I think there's a lot of different sort of factors in the reasons why we're not playing well this year. Fatigue being one, system changes, injuries, obviously. So slowly but surely now people are coming back, and hopefully back to a system that they all know, and a system they recognise what they've been successful in the past. That then they can then start to rebuild, and so hopefully starting with Spurs on Sunday. So hopefully now we've got players back from injury, we can go back to formations that we know work, and hopefully the midfield will be a lot more secure. Like, we know the injury's going to Henderson's back, so we've got the three main lads available in the midfield. So hopefully things like that will just start to build confidence within the team, and let the players go out there and express themselves a bit better.
There's in the comments the live bird. Hopefully the real one, Siobhan, pointed out that we've missed Konate massively. I thought there was a couple of things, really. Firstly, his starting position was higher, 5 yards up the pitch. The manager talked about being more compact, and I think he did help massively with that. But then the next thing was he then comes all the way into midfield to win it at times as well, which therefore I think that had an impact, I think, on Fabinho and a couple of others. It wasn't just the idea that the starting position is higher, but he will defend every situation higher. And I think that really helped Liverpool tactically.
Yeah, I think he plays with a great deal of kinds of power and force, and he's absolutely fucking massive. I think that also, Klopp said, I can't remember if it was in the press conference or previously, but he said that when he was asked about why there's been so many changes back and forth to how we've looked, he says, well, there's two really obvious reasons, and that's the availability of players and that we've not been defending very well. And I think that what he probably knew in midweek and prior to midweek was that bringing Konate back in was going to mean that we probably defended a little bit better. And therefore, we're able to go back to that system that people are familiar with without that weakness in defence. So yeah, he really does like raise everybody else's game, and where possible, I'd really love it to be him and Van Dijk as the partnership for any game that we want to take seriously and want to go in with a clear outcome of winning in. I really loved his Matip style mazy runs as well. I've not really, I don't know whether he's done them and I've not observed them, but I've never noticed them do that before.
It's an innovation. He's obviously he's had a look at it and thought,
it's like he's looked round, he's had all his time to look round, he's gone, right, well, Gomez runs kind of fast, I know I can do that. Van Dijk's massive and dead strong and comes up against anyone and comes out the winner. Yeah, I can do that. What's missing from me game? Hang on a minute. Adventures. Madness, chaos. So, yeah, it's great to see that he's brought that in. He's a bit of an everyman now. He's like a one-man band. Love him.
Like a one-man band, there's a kick drum attached to his right heel.
It is.
Makes those runs don't have a ninja-like quality. Everyone can see and hear them.
It's actually what got him booked. Against Napoli was in bringing his instruments out with him.
Well, indeed, absolutely. There is every player gets a different sort of type of crisis of confidence. Adam, I feel as though Fabinho's has been space around him, space behind him, space he needs to run back into, space he's not that comfortable being in. And I think one of the things that happened, I think Konate does help, but all of a sudden it felt to me like, in that shape, he just understood what his space was. And I think that's part of why I think, to the eye, still has a couple of dodgy moments, still has a couple of strange touches, but ultimately wins enough of his battles against a really physical, tight unit, which is what Napoli are. He wins enough of his battles there to feel buoyed by it.
Goes back a little bit to what you were saying to me before about everybody kind of growing into the game a little bit, because I think his sort of first two involvements could have been yellow cards. Like they were really bad tackles, and I was like, "Oh Jesus, we've got this Fabinho, have we? He's not going to last the 90." And then, as you say, he did sort of start to just get a little bit of confidence, grew into it a little bit, realised that maybe they weren't as tough a challenge as he'd kind of built himself up in his head for them to be, maybe, and was able to respond better to what was going on, but also there was more, as I say, kind of people fighting for each other. I felt, and that's kind of everyone. I feel that when the team has a bit of a crisis of confidence like it's been having, everybody's sort of just focusing on their own thing, and there isn't much looking out for each other. But it did feel like that started to come back, and he's not been playing well. I think we'd all agree for maybe 6 months or more. That he's not been playing well for quite a long time, and then on top of that, you've got no one's helping him. So he was really isolated. So he's not just playing not well, but he's also really isolated on top of that. But I thought that everybody was fighting for each other a little bit more, and that helped him as well. So he got to know his space, understood his space, but also the other people on the pitch were trying to help him more, I think.
As part of that as well, the other thing that I think helped everyone, Steve, was being able to get up the pitch and hold it there for periods. I think both Salah and Jones do that well. Salah then goes on post-match. It's really interesting about talking where he wants to be. But regardless, he just keeps scoring goals. It's mad to think that we don't feel like he's had quite the start of the season we would have liked, but he finds himself joint top scorer in the Champions League at this point. It's a reminder as to what he is at heart. Whatever his starting position is, he is a goal scorer, and he will always be a goal scorer.
Absolutely. Obviously, and when he's in full, like we know he can be, he'll be one of the best in the world at as well. So it's good to see him scoring them goals and getting the numbers in the Champions League. You just need to sort of transfer these over to the Premier League now as well, and start getting a few in there as well, which would be a massive help to the team. I thought him and Jones were pretty good most of the game. I thought Napoli kept a pretty tight shape. I thought they were quite impressive at the back, especially Kim. I thought was a fantastic.
He was great.
How quick was he, by the way? Oh my God, I've never seen anyone outrun Salah before. He was so quick. But I thought the shape was so much better with someone actually hugging the left hand touchline like Jones was. I know he's got his detractors as well as his fans, so he'll feel like he have a bit of a point to prove. And by far and away, it was his best performance. He's come back from injury, and the World Cup is probably coming at a really bad time for him. He's probably the only player you can say that about, because I think with the injuries we've got, he could really do with a extended run on the side of some games under his belt. But with Diaz and Jota being out, it's probably the perfect opportunity for him to do that. But there's only 2 games left till Boxing Day, so the World Cup is probably coming at a bit of a bad time for him. But yeah, I thought they were both excellent, and hopefully we'll see similar sort of output on Sunday.
It is great to see the goals keep coming for Mo Salah. Hope you're enjoying this edition of TAW Live. Liverpool in the hat for Monday's Champions League draw. I've got no real sense of what time it starts. I recognise I should know that in my job, to be quite honest with you, but I don't at this point in time. But also, I always feel like whenever someone tells me a start time for the UEFA draw, it's just a pack of lies. So the idea of how very much hooking anything around it becomes remarkably difficult. Basically, someone will tell me when the draw is done. Or when it's about to start in terms of its realness. So do keep an eye out for that on Monday. We'll have loads of reaction to it on the Anfield Wrap. Looking forward to that. And also, we'll have loads of reaction to Spurs as well. Do download the app and mess about with it on there. You get some free tokens to listen to bits and pieces, including post-match stuff around Tottenham. But coming up right now on TAW Live, we've got a couple of really, really good segments. We've got Dom King on Jordan Henderson's book, and we've got Sian Davies. I'll be very clear about that one. I'll remember that one as we go on her upcoming show at the Unity. That is to come if you listen to this as a podcast. And we're back. If you weren't listening to this as a podcast but enjoying it as a video, that was a very, very, very short break indeed. And it was at 18:58 for the keen-eyed amongst you. Check your bingo cards accordingly. One of you get a big prize by the time we get round to Christmas. It is always great to be here on a Friday afternoon, so do join us. It's around 4-ish. We start this and we get stuck in and we imagine what the weekend is going to hold from a Liverpool point of view. And Adam, I'll start with you this time. Tottenham. Their injury hit, which, I mean, I feel genuinely sorry for Son. I'd rather not face him, don't get me wrong, but fractured eye sockets, let's be clear, sound like no barrel of laughs. When lads are out with a bit of a calf injury, it's one of them where you get to go, oh, well, I'm glad he's not playing against us. I really can't summon up that enthusiasm for a fractured eye socket for a footballer, to be honest with you. But the other concern for this as well is the fact that Tottenham are injury hit, the fact that it's Liverpool coming to town. all of it will therefore justify what I'm expecting to be pretty negative tactics from Tottenham for much of the game, both in the eyes of their players and their supporters. They will be backs against the wall, and I think that'll suit Antonio Conte down to the ground.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, Son is one of those players that I wish we had bought years ago. I really like him. I think he's a brilliant player, but also he's got that snide. He's really snidey player, but he gets away with it because everyone thinks he's dead nice. So he gets to be really snide, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's lovely, Son, isn't he?" And meanwhile, he's tripping people up and kicking them and all that sort of stuff. So I would have loved him at Anfield because we don't have enough of that. We don't have enough snide. And yeah, I think the big thing that Jurgen's going to have to kind of drill into his players is let's not have every single person camped on the edge of their box if we're trying to break them down, because they can hit you on the counter like nobody's business. They're so good at hitting you on the counter. Alistair Kinnaird, apologies about the pronunciation there, I just said this is 0-0 written all over it. I don't see that. I really don't, because I just think that they are so good on the counter. This has very much got Tottenham scoring written all over it for me. Especially if we do the daft thing we've been doing of having Trent playing centre mid or attacking midfielder for most of the game when they're camped out in their box. I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to it at all. I'm really not. But I hope, a little bit like I was saying before, to continue my metaphor of the having pissed off the partner, this is when they go out and buy you a lovely present and come back and you feel all better about it. That's what I'm hoping for, is a lovely present off the Reds to make me feel less like more like an idiot for forever doubting them, my dear loves.
They will need to be less like idiots, Steve. This is the key thing here. I think that's what Adam's sort of saying there as well about where they position themselves. They can't get sucked into nonsense. They've got to find their way through the game. It's worth pointing out we have had very, very few red cards under Jurgen Klopp. We get one in this fixture last season with Robertson. Obviously Kane should have got sent off earlier on. I've really felt that day like Liverpool got very much swept along, and there was obviously players missing as well, but Liverpool got swept along by the game of football. It was a massive atmosphere there, and it became a game of basketball where Tottenham arguably came off better. Now, obviously they are missing a couple, but you feel like we can't be sucked into that this time. We've got to have the sense to play through phases of the game, take our time. Nothing daft Liverpool from minute one.
Yeah, as you've been saying on both shows, no gifts. Christmas is coming, but it's no time for gifts yet. I mean, we just need nothing stupid from the word go. Let's just build our way into the game. It still leaves a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. Paul Tierney was an absolute disgrace. I hope to God he's not refereeing this Sunday. Yeah, I don't have
We've lost a lot of stay. All of a sudden there. Lost a hell of a lot of them. So I'll go up to you, Siobhan. I mean, it's just dropped back into say mad decisions. In a way, that's all. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with him from what I've heard, Siobhan, because
this is a bit like Paul Tierney's refereeing performance last season against Spurs.
That's what I was saying.
It is Siobhan one where, as I say, I think Tierney doesn't help last season either. The crowd don't help. Obviously, the crowd are great for them; they're up for it. Tierney doesn't help. The fact that they just throw Dele Alli in from nowhere and he sort of rolls back the years to an extent for them, at least for half an hour or 45 minutes. That is my, it's a really weird thing to say because they're on top. They're ahead of us. It's Andy Madley on Sunday. They're ahead of us in the league markedly, but I feel a bit like we need this to be as sane a game of football as possible, because if it is, I think we're just better than them. And as I say, there's a gulf between the two sides, but I just think we're better than them. So if a normal game of football happens, what tends to happen is the team that are better wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Like last season was just so chaotic and had very little structure, very little sense to it from minute one. I think that emotions definitely got the better of a lot of people. As we've both pointed out, the refereeing performance was a farce. But I think that I'm running out of game to game narratives for positivity this season, because after every game where something good happens, you can go, right, if we can just do that, if we can just take that into the next game, and it hasn't really been translating that way. After City, we all said it, that could be the turning point, I think there was an extremely mature way to win a game in midweek, albeit the goals were a bit balmy. there was an extreme, as you said before, like feeling your way into the game, ticking along, getting your basics broadly right, taking your time, not making any huge mistakes, no gifts, like you said. And I think playing a good team in midweek has probably helped, because if possible, could you just do the same, please? Could you just, go in, don't do anything stupid in the first 15 minutes, hold on to the ball, maybe don't give it away needlessly. They're gonna have a big crowd. Obviously, everyone will be right up for it Sunday afternoon. In midweek, for the first hour, it was anyone's game, but it felt extremely measured and controlled, and I'd like to see the same again this time around. And I think, as you said, it's the only way to win.
I think they'll want us to get in our heads, Adam, and that's the other thing. I think that you're able to look at we spent a lot of time this season not creating good enough chances at level scorelines or behind, and I think that Tottenham, if you're Conte, you'll be saying, firstly, we're good at limiting quality chances. Secondly, if we just hang in, these will give us something at some stage. And that is, so I don't think the 0-0 shout's a million miles away in a couple of ways. In that I can see loads of ways in which it doesn't happen, not least one being Liverpool actually, in a wonderful way, managed to find the way to opening the score and relatively early in the game. I think that would really break it apart, because I think if you're Conte, with the injury doubt, with not just doubts, you've got no Son, you've got no Richarlison, you've got no Kulusevski, so it's going to be almost certainly Kane and Moura up top. You're very much about holding position. You're very much about, there's one big chance in this game and we take it. And I think Liverpool have got to, as much as possible, ensure, firstly, that big chance for Tottenham doesn't come, but secondly, they don't get sucked into another 90 minutes where they're doing their own heads in from minute one.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and that's where an early goal would just for them would just be the worst thing, because that would just be everybody going off. We're back here, we're doing this again, this old nonsense. I think that it'd be really tough to recover from after, exactly as Siobhan says, a really good performance against Napoli, and kind of a good team, a very good team, a good performance against a very good team. And if you can carry that spirit over into the next game and start well, even if we're not scoring, but if we can have sort of the opening 15 minutes where there's just not a lot of anything apart from us creating chances, that will give them growing confidence. The reverse of that is if there is, again, as Steve mentioned, as you've said before, if there's a gift from us for some reason, then that's exactly what we won't want, and that they will gobble it up, and we'll be going, shit, we still haven't turned a corner, we still haven't done any of those things. And then, as you say, back in their own heads, back worrying about the same old things over and over again. So the opening 15 minutes for me will be big, just in don't give them anything. Just go in there, be confident, but don't be stupid. No stupidity. I'm sick of seeing stupid Liverpool from a team that we've grown to think are really mature and sensible over the years. I am bored to tears by them being stupid all the time. I'm stupid enough for everybody. You do the sensible stuff, will be my argument.
There is then, for us, Henderson's back in the shake-up, as we said earlier on. There's actually a couple of positive decision-making headaches for the manager. He's got to, firstly, does he stick with 4-3-3? That's my question one to you, Steve. My second question is, if he does, who starts in the middle of the park? Because I think we can expect the defence to be Trent Alexander-Arnold, Konate, Van Dijk and Robertson. So the second question becomes, who starts in the middle of the park? And then the third question becomes, who starts up front? So, if you want to have a go at all three of those, do you think he'll stick with the system first and foremost?
I hope so. We look so much more compact and so much more defensively solid on Tuesday against Napoli. So for me, I'd hope he goes for the 4-3-3 again. And now he's got Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago all available, all fit. I'd like to see him go with them three in the middle. And then it's who he goes for up front, really. I'd be surprised if it's anyone else but Nunez, Firmino and Salah, really. I think this is his final side now, but the strongest available side. He needs to go there. We need to get some kind of results.
So you'd start Nunez off the left?
I would, yeah. I'd like to see him through the middle, but I think Carvalho would probably be the only other option out there. Jones, maybe. But I don't know if Jones is quite ready for another, after playing playing a lot of minutes midweek. I think you might see Nunez out there. I think he might go as strong as he can through up in the front three.
Is that what you think, Siobhan?
I just wonder, is there a space for Elliott out wide instead? That's the only thing I'd say, really. I know that he's probably not had his best run, but I just don't know. I think someone really energetic alongside whoever's in the middle would be really would help, as long as you're having a good game.
Adam, what do you think of all that?
Yeah, I generally agree. I really want to see Nunez. I do not really want to see Firmino, if I'm honest. I didn't think he played very well on Tuesday. I was having a chat with San Chetty, who disagrees with me and thought he played really well, but I thought his touch was awful. I thought his passing was not great. I think he's just played too much, and I think that him dropping deep has always worked really well when the rest of the structure of the team is in place. But when the team structure has been so all over the show and people have been so unsure of what they're doing, him dropping deep has just not really helped anybody. And I think that in a weird way, the goals has masked things, that masked the level of his performances. I don't think he's been playing that well, but he's been scoring goals, so we've kind of ignored it. So yeah, I would not, if I saw a team sheet that did not have Firmino in it, I would not be disappointed. But also, I'd be really happy if he made me look a twat. So
he loves a goal at Spurs as well, doesn't he? He loves a goal at
yeah,
Spurs.
I wondered on Firmino whether or not you want the manager will in general want to have a sub. And if that sub is Firmino, I'm absolutely fine with that for this one. The idea of, it's not quite what we want it to be on 60. Guess what? The game's now different. We're bringing this fella on, and whether that leads to something that's a bit more 4-2-3-1 or it's just different personnel, I sort of wonder if that might be good. I am all for him starting Jones again left-hand side for an hour, just solely off the basis of the fact that I think he'll really help the shape. And then you sort of go from there. I wouldn't have a problem with another hour of Curtis Jones off the left, just holding it up, bringing people into play, and Liverpool going from there. But we'll see what he does. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction because it feels unfair. Sai agreeing with Adam there in the comments that Bobby wasn't good on Tuesday. I was more concerned about the fact that I just don't think he was holding it up that well. Not just the idea of the pass. I think it's hard for him to look after it against really physical sides, and Tottenham are a big team. An enormous team, performed brilliantly all season on set pieces, both for and against, because of the size of them. And I think it's going to be a big physical battle. Siobhan, are you confident?
Yeah, reluctantly. Yeah, it's like I'd rather not be because I'm sick of being made feel a fool. But yeah.
Reluctantly confident.
Reluctantly confident, yeah. I think that's my personality type, actually.
Reluctantly confident, yeah. Adam, are you confident, reluctantly or otherwise?
I am not very confident.
That shocks me, Adam.
Totally honest. I know, right? You wouldn't get that from what I've said in this show, but yeah, no, I'm not overly confident. Although reluctantly confident has been my acting style for about 12 years. So
excellent. It's good to see it summing up everyone's performance. Steve Evans, are you reluctantly confident?
No, I'm confident. I think Spurs will have a big win midweek. I think it'll have a bit of the case after the Lord's Mercy show. I think they would have pulled on to that game in Marseille. They could see them celebrating a little bit after the game, and I think hopefully we'll catch them where they might just be a little bit of sort of hangover from that game. So I'm hoping always back to Reds. Always back to Reds. I think we'll go there and get a result.
So, Steve, you think we're winning because Spurs have had a pint? Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. That's the insight you can get at the Anfield Wrap. Excellent stuff indeed. Thank you very much to Siobhan, to Steve, and to Adam. Andy Heaton for producing. And in there as well, Sean Davis, Dom King, and John Gibbons all the way through that. It has been your tour live. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's set the weekend up for you. Liverpool play nicely at 4:30 on Sunday. So whatever mad thing they do, it's not happening to you until at least 4:30 on Sunday. But I too am confident. I have a feeling it might be a bit more of a mad one in terms of eventual scoreline. I wonder whether or not Tottenham Hotspur are not far away from being crisis club, which feels like a very strange thing to say. But I think there's been a lot of them grabbing results from the fire and it covering performance-based deficiencies for them over the course of the campaign. And I don't think they're having very much fun. But anyway, we have had Siobhan, Steve, Adam. I've been Neil Atkinson.